Okay, so we had yesterday. We had a session between, I think it was around 1 and 3, and I had 4 audience members because I was like, you can leave whenever you want to because it's a 25-minute piece. It's meant to be durational. You can leave whenever you feel uncomfortable. Just raise your hands. There was a whole disclaimer about it, being like, if you feel uncomfortable, I'll take you to a safe space. Don't worry about it. But nobody left. Nobody wanted to leave. But like, cool. Which was really cool. So I had a seat for them, but they all wanted to sit on the floor. Interesting choice. So I blindfolded them and they were sat against the wall. So I guess it was like a grounding thing. Maybe they wanted to feel like they were secure. Yeah. So what they did is they put their hands on the table, like a kind of a seance thing, which was really interesting. And what I decided to do a couple of days before was include certain like textiles and use of material involved with it that would like enhance the experience. They were blindfolded, listening to this tape.
All listening to the same tape.
All listening to the same
tape. Place, yeah.
Yeah, but there was one at a time. So I had this, my first audience member was like pretty kind of calm about it for the first, and then she was like, oh no. But by my third one, my friend Kyle, he was observing my work. He was kind of like semi-marking it for me. He sat down and I started, there's this one scene where she's talking about a flower, and I bring out this flower and I give it to him and he's holding it and he's like smelling it, but he's blindfolded and he's listening to this tape. And then like I take the flower away from him and he's like, where's the flower gone? And I give him back a flower that's like burnt and he's like crushing it and he's like, what is this? And then he hears in the tape about the flowers burning and the children being mutilated, which is horrible, and all of this, and I take that away from him and he's like, what's going on? And then I put his hands flat on the table and I cover them in moisturiser and I'm like rubbing his hands, and there's this horrible scene in the play that's all about like pornography and the sex industry, and it's all like horrible wet noises that I've added. So I'm putting moisturiser in his hands, and then I've got a bag of jelly and I put the bag on his hands and I'm like forcing him to touch the bag, and it's like that forced kind of implication that you have to do this, you have to watch this. And he was like, oh my god, no. And then I took it away from him and he was like, thank god. Wiped his hands off. And then I gave him some rocks, which was to do with the next scene. And he was like feeling the rocks, and he started like making this little like fortress thing out of the rocks, and I toppled it over and took the rocks away, and he was like, my rocks, like these are my rocks. And then it got really dark and it started talking about, in the end scene, the one I decided to finish on, end scene, it's a loop. It's about like this woman arriving at an airport, and everyone's like, who is this woman? And it's another archetype of Anne, obviously, and she arrives with these 2 bags, and it's like, what's in the bags? And you eventually find out in like the last line that it's like her baby in both of the bags. So what I did was I opened this bag of jelly and got them to feel around the rim of it, and then I kept like almost like teasing them with the fact that they wouldn't know what's in the bag, so they kept like touching around the bag but not allowed to go in the bag. And, like the last 5 seconds I put their hand in the jelly and they were like, oh my god, it's like the baby in the bag. And then I ended it and I was like, how was that? And my friend Kyle sat there for about 15 minutes just like pretty much in silence, just there like, I don't know what to do. I feel so like, he was like, I've never felt so like out of control in my entire life.
And like,
safe, but like I didn't know what was going to happen because I didn't know what you were going to do. And yeah, and he was like, it was so interesting that the way that you did it, like the way that you gave me things and the things became mine and then you took them away, or like the materials were soft.
So that's interesting about orientation and disorientation.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And that links to
like grounding yourself with an object or having that away and what that implies. And he was saying like that the really horrible scene was this like middle scene with like the pornography, because he was forced to hold this thing.
It's a visceral experience of what it feels like.
Yeah, he's forced to do it and listen to it, and it's like, no, I don't want to. But when he got given the rocks, it was like something he was allowed to touch and he was allowed to make his own. But then it was horrible when I took them away and ruined what he made.
Parallel to this narrative, what did you feel like as the facilitator? Because you have God.
Hilarious.
You're God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just sat there like laughing because their reactions are just like gold. But it was like really interesting the way that I developed the arc of it, because at first I was just kind of giving them objects that were to do with the scene, and then they could play with them if they wanted to. And then I was like, no, I can add like a manipulation aspect into this. So and I did the whole thing with like I was touching their hands at some points as well, and like being really caring, but there was also that malicious sense to it. So
that's the light in the dark.
The light in the dark, which is really interesting.
So think about that, also linking to the Laban, because it's quite nice to join it up. That light and dark of Laban, how you experience that. You are controller in your performance by taking away and giving in that, and what that caused viscerally to manifest in your subject,
completely,
your audience member, whatever, or participant, and what you notice in them, and then how you could look at their bodies, what they did, think about what you would need to embody that shift towards something and away from something into a Laban effort.
And that inclination to be open to things and then being like, no, I don't want to. And I think that it was really interesting, the fact that we were surrounded by people all the time, but because I completely blocked off everything, they would just by themselves. I also had a pair of headphones on, so I knew what was going on the entire time. And I had control over what they were doing and if they were safe, and I had eyes on them all the time. But it was just like, they were just like, I've never felt so disorientated in my entire life. I'm like, now you know how I feel.
I cannot tell you how gleeful your face is. Do you know about Me You Bum Bum Train? I think that's what they called. They're a theatre company that do, I'm not saying similar, they do immersive one-to-one stuff.
Oh, really?
I don't know why I've remembered it, Me You Bum Bum Train. It might be Ya Ya Bum Bum Train. Something like that. It's a phrase like that.
Yeah.
And they did a performance where you were invited to take a bath and be washed by the, like when you wash children and babies. You didn't have to be naked. You could be if you wanted to, but you could wear like a swimming costume because you were in a bath.
Yeah.
You were also blindfolded, and they washed you.
Oh.
And it was like returning you to that childhood stuff of being, I suppose, like a mother figure. Doesn't have to be a mother. But being taken care of and being washed, and all the parts of you can't reach when you have a bath, and then being and so the performance was about 25 minutes long, and then you came out the bath and you were held in a towel, and then you were moved to another place. No words.
Because that's how I was.
No, I don't know about that. There was no.
But that's really interesting, because that's that kind of like security.
Yeah, that's an interesting one.
It's like when I went to go.
And also giving over the power as an adult.
Yes, exactly.
To be taken back.
And of course, you've now got like this vision in your brain of like, what could happen to me? I don't know who these people are. Is this like a sexual thing? Is this completely. Oh.
Then the intimacy of your evolutions being witnessed by someone and letting someone take care of you.
Yeah. And the whole idea of taking care is so against this like individualistic society that we have. We were always inclined to. You see monkeys; they look after each other, right? They pick each other's fleas out, and it's like that's how they work as a group, and there's nothing weird about
collective,
that. No. They just do the collective thing. But in this society, we're like, don't want anyone touching me. I don't like being hugged. I don't like being touched.
There's a great line from I'm loving the book I'm reading by Salman Rushdie about it's called Fury, but it's actually, when I say it's old-fashioned, it was written quite a while ago, but it's so pertinent, and it talks about all these conundrums that we've lost the ability to discern the difference between flirting and sexual harassment.
Yeah.
And so we've lost the ability to be touched.
Yeah.
Because everybody's so scared to touch anyone inappropriately that no one touches anybody at all. And he writes brilliantly. I'm gonna remember to bring you that little bit. And I just thought that's just so well put, that we have so risk averse, so everything's a safety. Of course, people break that and shouldn't break.
Yeah.
But we lose everything when we go down this road.
It's too far in a sense.
It's an interesting concept.
It was when seeing the Incubus at the Vaults. Obviously, there was this one-on-one VR experience. It was so bizarre being like wheeled around in a wheelchair, and that idea even of like disability and people having to have somebody look after them, and that like you're forced to be looked after, which is strange and something I've never really had except when I was a child. The further away from childhood you
shouldn't have, because of your experience that is a sign of failure.
Yeah
having to be looked after.
Exactly.
Yeah. And it's an interesting concept to problematize that. Yeah. That's fantastic that it went so well, and I can see your excitement.
Completely.
That is just really good.
So happy. Yeah.
And did Deanna watch any of it?
No, she didn't. No, she didn't get around. But I mean, I had an audience member with me the entire time, so I had to stop early on my last one because we finished time. So because everyone wanted to stay for the full 25, which was like they didn't have to, but they wanted to for some reason, which is great. But I did give them the option to leave if they wanted to. So.
And Kyle watching and commenting on it?
Yeah.
He must have been like, oh my god.
He loved it. And he was like, I definitely want to work, because I obviously mentioned him the September thing. And I was like, yeah, I'm keeping it under the rug, but like, duh.
I want to work with you.
I want to work with you. And he was like, I've got so many ideas. Because now we're considering using that piece, but having that as the one-on-one. So giving people tickets with numbers on them, and then being like, could I have number 42, please?
So there's breaking
and
that
then breaking that, and then being
yeah.
like, oh my god, and then being taken away from the group and having a one-on-one experience like this, having the rest of the group have like a bigger
That's a nice idea.
bigger
That's a
visual,
lovely idea.
which would be really cool. People are like, where did you go? What did they do to you? And they're like, oh my god, I did this. Because they do that with Punch Drunk. They take them on...
And Shunt, there's another one called Shunt, Punch Drunk.
Yeah.
I've been to some of their performances.
I haven't been to a Punch Drunk yet. I want to so badly. I'd give it.
Not all of them are that good. I think they're running out of ideas. They need someone like you to come and fire them up.
I'll work for them.
Yeah.
I did a workshop.
I want you to
with
say,
them.
they'll work for me. Say that. They'll work for me.
Oh my god.
Okay, so let's look at your essay, because this is pulling into the essay.
Could I